Okay. So we'll get started. So first of all, welcome to KatoriCon. So far, how's been your convention? Has it been going good so far?
Awesome.
Pretty good. Pretty good. My name is AJ Adejare. I am a reviewer for a website called the Fandom Post, which before we begin, I kind of want to put a plug for them because they actually helped donate a couple of material that I'll be giving away. So I've got some Blu-rays and I got a light novel, a couple of light novels. So with that being said, Fandom Post is pretty much a review website. They do anime, they do manga, they do comics, as well as like live action, kind of like your more, I guess, in a sense, nerd culture website for reviews and news. And so if you just go to fandompost.com, you can go there, you'll see my reviews go up, as I do reviews for not only comics, some would be more occasional, like cartoons and live action, but also I do light novels. So for me as a reviewer, my focus tends to be towards comics and the light novels. And so that's what I wanted to do for that. But also one more thing, just a Plightcast. It's one of the podcasts that I also do, and when I pop up there as a guest quite frequently. And so if you go to the Plightcast, you can look it up, and from there you'll be able to hear me talk about some of the things that I watch, and also hear me talk about light novels. We actually have a chance to talk about that. So with that being said, let's first talk about the concept of novels. So when we talk about novels, right, we think of things like, Game of Thrones, which is pretty awesome, right? And then we also look at some more, young adult things like, Hunger Games, or if you're more like me, who is a little bit more older, you think of Harry Potter and like the whole entire 7 series. And, that's what we're used to as novels. They're really, really big, about 300 pages, like bare minimum for it to be a novel. And you're just talking about like really hard, thick books that you can just read and just get totally enthralled into. Well, light novels are kind of the opposite of that. So in the case, if you go more towards like the 1990s and stuff like that, that's a little bit more back. So for instance, we have Magic Treehouse, which is kind of the more like really, really small aspect of it. But we're thinking more about we're thinking more along the lines of like Animorphs and Babysitter's Club or Goosebumps. We're talking about like very, very small books around less than like maybe 300 pages max, and then that are more of like continuing stories that go through. And so, for instance, to give you a sense of it, a light novel is, on a general aspect, a novella, pulp, magazine-based format. It's essentially, they're writing towards the audience, and the audience tends to be more towards, young adults, which, for young adults, we think, Game of Thrones, well, not Game of Thrones, excuse me, more like Hunger Games, Divergent, but in this case, for us, it's more like, light novels such as Danmachi, or, Is It Wrong to Pick Up Girls in the Dungeon, or we think, of course, Sword Art Online, or we think other pieces such as that. So they're more geared towards young adults, and they range from around 150 to 300 pages in length. And so, to kind of give you an example of it, they have a more physical aspect of manga trade backs or takubans, which is like very, very kind of like somewhat small, so it's kind of like this. And the cool thing is that they actually have anime inserts. I can't necessarily show it here, but I don't want to get in trouble when I actually take a picture of it. But if you see here, it has like anime inserts in there that you're able to see and be able to actually look at. And so, to kind of give you an example, if you look here, that's a light novel. This is actually the one, number 2, Kaguru Days 2. I actually just barely had my review go up for this as of less than 24 hours ago. And so to give you an example of how big it is and how relatively its format. So on the left we have Yamada-kun and the 7 Witches, number 3, that's a manga. Then we have, of course, Animorphs, which is like way, way back in the 90s sci-fi, kind of like what would be considered a light novel. That's right there. And then you have Kaguru Days, which is a little bit bigger. But that's also because of the way that Yen Press does their format. But if you look there, relatively bigger in size, but the thickness of it is just like not that big. You're clocking it around at max maybe 300 pages, but it also has some other inserts too, including what is it, including like forwards and like discussions about what the author was writing at that particular point in time. And so, you know, where do you get light novels? So let's talk about some of the light novel companies that are actually bringing them into America, because you guys may not know it, but they're actually selling it at the dealer's room. I think Cheap Manga has some of more light novels out there, a couple of them. And so, first is Vertical. Vertical is known as a very, very more adult-oriented and more niche-oriented manga company. Like, they did Gundam the Origin and like published that in a ridiculously high-quality book. And so they did Attack on Titan, the Harsh Mistress of the Sea. They actually are doing the novelization of that, since that is a light novel for that. Of course, Kodansha is actually publishing the manga, and then other people have that. But these are more the side stories. And then, how many of you guys know about Monogatari? Yeah. So that this is where you guys are really looking at. So. So just to kind of show you a clip of that. So Slayers, okay, that's one of like the first anime series that come out that were for light novels. Hajime Kadazaka did that. The original light novel went into 1989 to like 2000. It had its whole bunch of following spin-off manga and anime, and it's pretty much the adventure of Lena-verse, with her sidekick Gori, and as well as others going through and trying to combat the evils of like different people throughout the whole entire series. It's actually fairly popular as an anime series, definitely because of the English cast. I think, if I'm correct, I think Michelle Knotts was one of the voice actresses for this, and more importantly, it's like the dubs that did this were from New York City, so they actually did some of the dubs for Slayers for the anime, and so it's fairly popular. It's within the older generation. So we have that, and then the next one is something a little bit more out of the more standard anime, a little bit more niche.
Oh, I read this. I love this.
Yeah, so Boogie Pop Phantom, from what I recall, I think it may have been on G4 back in the day. It was, I remember it being like aired at least once. I think it was G4 or Tech TV back when they had their own anime block, like in the early 2000s. And so the thing about Boogie Pop Phantom is that it's a mystery-based light novel, and it's a part of I think the Boogie Pop project, which essentially had it so that it's a bunch of light novels that kind of intertwine within each other. And so Kohei Kandono did this, and it ran from 1998 to 2008, which fairly wrapped up fairly okay. It started the light novel craze in Japan, where people were starting to say, oh, well, this is a cool medium, we can start reading through it and start getting into it. One thing of note, I know I didn't put it up on there because they kind of ceased doing this, but Seven Seas originally pushed out, from what I recall, the light novel for this. But unfortunately, because the light novel didn't sell, they kind of stopped localizing it and they kind of cut it off in general. The same thing happened to Vertical with Going Saga, where it was just not enough demand, not enough people trying to go for it. So once again, if you like it, if you watch the anime, buy the light novel so that they can see, oh, okay, you know, we can at least keep on bringing the light novels so the anime stops and that, you know, they can't necessarily, like, how do I put it? People want to see second season. If the second season can't come out, at least the light novel comes out, and then you at least have that to go on to. So now we're going to go into second wave, which is a little bit more recent with a lot more titles that pop out. So, of course, yes, Haruhi. Yeah.